We continue, and we're kind of starting to finish up our last 2 weeks here of the series we've been in, which is talking about choices. And what we've been looking at is five very specific choices in your life that will define your future, will define your destiny. And what we've been talking about is that your choices today define the life that you get to live tomorrow and into the future. The things you decide to do right now in your very life, right at this instance, will define what happens down the road, and it will set up your path down the road as well. So we're looking at choices, and today's choice is this that we're going to look at. How will you achieve greatness in your life? How will you achieve greatness in your life? Will it be through serving yourself, or will it be through serving others? Here's the thing. I believe each of us is destined for greatness. Now, when I say that, how many of you sit there and go, yeah, I believe that too? Raise your hand. Okay, that's about 13% of you. Okay, I can figure it out real quick. I have like a photographic memory and I can calculate it. So that was 13% of you. When I say I believe all of us are destined for greatness, we have a hard time accepting that. But here's the thing. Greatness isn't something that's just reserved for a select few people. Greatness isn't something that's just reserved for the exceptionally talented or those that are born into the right families. That's not who greatness is just reserved for. Greatness is something that each of us are destined, designed, and specifically gifted to achieve. Okay? Deep inside all of our hearts, deep inside there, God has put a desire for us to do something great with our lives, to have a desire to make a difference in this world, to have a purpose in the things that we're doing, and to do something in this life that will last beyond this life. That desire for greatness comes from God, and it's something we eternally each have. But what a lot of us do is this: we bury it as we get older. I think a lot of times, if I were to specifically just put the teenagers aside or the young college kids and say, how many believe you are destined for greatness, you would get a high percentage of them. If we put a lot of us that are a little bit older, and I would say mid-30s later, and say, how many of you believe you are destined for greatness, you would get a much lower percentage. And the reason is this: we start to just go, it's not something I can achieve, it's not something I can attain at this point in my life, and we just chalk it up to being a childhood dream. We chalk it up to being something of our youth, but it's not really realistic. And at some point we go, it's easier to live that way. It's easier to live just thinking I'm not destined for greatness, and I will just go through the routine. I will go through this life, and I will just live life like everybody else. And we give it up and say it was just a fantasy. It isn't something that's really attainable. And I'm here this morning to tell you that is not true. You need to understand that the desire for greatness is God-given. And it is an incredibly motivating thing in your life, that it comes from God. You will always, unless you bury it, desire greatness in your life and to leave a mark. You see, the pursuit and the desire of greatness is this: it's not wrong. A lot of Christians go, it's wrong. It's not. The desire to be great is not wrong, but it does cause a lot of people to desire wrongly. Did you get that? It's not wrong, but it gets a lot of people to desire wrongly. What you need to understand is God's path to greatness is totally different than the world's route. Okay? The world tells you that the way to greatness is this: it's through acquiring possessions. You know this, that if you can acquire more than the next person, you are greater than they are. And the world tells you that's how you get greatness. What was that old bumper sticker? It said, the guy with like the most toys or whatever still dies, or what was it? The guy with the dies with the most toys wins. Still dies. That's what I saw. I don't know where you were driving. You saw that other bumper sticker. It was the guy with the most toys, and you'd always see it on someone that's driving like this ratted out little minivan. The guy with the most toys still dies. Meaning this: we all face the same fate, and none of it goes with us. Possessions just inherently, they get worse. They fall apart. They deteriorate. Which means this: they cannot be the defining measure of greatness because they deteriorate. Jesus addresses this. He says in Matthew 6, he says, don't store up your treasures here on earth where moths eat them and rust destroys them, and where thieves break in and steal. Jesus goes, Don't look for greatness in possessions. It's just not going to happen because all that stuff falls apart. None of that stuff is lasting. You can't find greatness in it. Okay, you also need to understand this. Greatness is not found in attaining positions. One of the fallacies we get into in our culture is this: I will be great if I get the right title. So if I can work myself up the corporate ladders or the respect ladders and I can get certain titles and positions, that makes me someone better than someone else. That makes me great. And a lot of people spend their lives chasing positions, thinking that's the way to achieve greatness, that will give their life meaning if they can get the right title. And I'm here today to let you know it can't be, because you don't control your position. Okay? Other people do. How many of you have ever been fired before? That's a good chunk of you. Okay. If you've been fired before, you know this. You don't control your position. You know at your jobs right now, you can have your position, but if there's some individual higher than you that doesn't like you and wants you gone, they can demote you, they can get rid of your position. You don't control it. The highest position we have in our country, the President of the United States, he doesn't even control it because the people can vote him out. Okay? We don't really control our positions, and so that cannot be the determining factor of how you measure a person's greatness. Now, there's an interesting scripture or an event. In Matthew chapter 20, Jesus has this conversation with two of his disciples and then all of them, but I want to read it to you. And here's what happens. It says this: Then the mother of James and John, so two of the disciples, the mom, the sons of Zebedee, came to Jesus with her sons. She knelt respectfully to ask a favor. She said, and Jesus said, "What is your request?" he asked. She replied, "In your kingdom." So she's saying, when you set up your kingdom someday, in the future, in your kingdom, please let my two sons sit in a place of honor next to you, one on the right and one on the left. Okay, now stop for a second. Think about this. The mom of two of his disciples. Can you imagine that, your mom, when you're an adult? Okay, you're hanging out with Jesus, and your mom comes in a picture, comes up to Jesus, kneels down, and she goes, "Can I ask this request?" And he's like, "Yeah, stand up." What? And she's like, "Can my two sons sit at your right hand and your left hand when you set up your kingdom? Can they be the two spots of position in your kingdom?" And here's his response. Your two sons? But Jesus answered by saying to them, "You don't know what you are asking. Are you able to drink from the bitter cup of suffering I'm about to drink?" "Oh, yes," they replied. So the two brothers go, "Oh, yeah, we can do that. Yeah, if we get the seats of honor." And he says, Jesus told them, "You will indeed drink from my bitter cup, but I have no right to say who will sit at my right and my left. My Father has prepared those places for the ones he has chosen." So if you notice this, Jesus isn't real impressed with their desire for a position. And I think the reason is he knew that's not what this is all about. That's not how you attain greatness in my kingdom, is by coming to me and begging for positions. That's not how it's going to be attained. He's not impressed. If you go further, we see this. Greatness also isn't found in gaining power over others. Another fallacy we have is if I can have power over others, if I can control their lives and dictate what they do, that makes me a great person. You see the extreme sides of this with the abuse of people that try to control people. And they think somehow they are great because they can control other individuals. Other ways, a more mild form of this is in our jobs, in our houses, in our marriage relationships, with our parenting skills. If I can control the people that are in my life, the more power I attain, the greater I am. And again, that is a fallacy. And here's what we see. When you continue that scripture, it says in verse 24, it says, "When the 10 disciples heard what James and John had asked, they were indignant." Now, you didn't know this at the beginning. Understand, the mom comes up with James and John, and she sits down and says, "Can you do this?" And you're thinking it's the three of them with Jesus. Actually, all the other disciples are around. Okay? Would you not be ticked off? There's 12 of you. The mom comes in for 2 of them and sits down before Jesus and goes, "Would you make my 2 special? The other 10, you know who they are, but my 2, would you make them special?" Okay, this is incredible gall. And it says when the other 10 heard this, they are indignant. They are ticked off at this point, because what they're thinking is, I want the power seats. I want to have power over them, and I can't believe she went up there and asked them. I want the power. And here's Jesus' response. It's very interesting. But Jesus called them together and he said this, you know that the rulers of this world lord it over their people, and the officials flaunt their authority over those under them. So he says, you know how the world works. It works on power. Whoever has the most power controls things, and they think that's great. But he ends with this. He says, but among you, it's got to be different. Among you, it's got to be different. You're not going to achieve greatness or power, guys. That's not why I'm here. You 12, I didn't pick you so you could be men of power. I picked you for another purpose, and your greatness is going to come through a different means. And what he sets up is this. And next thing we see is this. Your true greatness is found in serving. True, absolute greatness is found in serving. Here's what Jesus says to him after he says you'll be different. He says, whoever wants to be a leader among you must be your servant. And whoever wants to be first among you must become your slave. For even the Son of Man came not to be served, but to serve others and to give his life as a ransom for many. So Jesus says, you guys want position, you want power, you guys think possessions make you great. I'll tell you what makes you great, serving other people, becoming a slave to other people, giving your lives in devotion to serving them. That's how you become first. That's how you become great in my eyes. He turns everything he turns everything around from how we naturally perceive things to be. Jesus doesn't condemn them for the desire for greatness. I find this interesting. Through that whole passage, Jesus never says, why do you guys desire to be great? He never says that to him. He never says, that's bad. I can't believe you guys want to be great. He never condemns them for that. What he does say is this, the means for attaining it are going to be different, and the difference is you serve people. You serve people. And you're not going to get that in the world anywhere. The world's never going to tell you the way you get greatness is serving people. The world's going to tell you go after possessions, positions, and power. I'm telling you, serve people. It's through giving our lives to serving others that we find true greatness, and that cannot be taken away and it cannot be affected by anything in this world. It is something that is in God's hands, no one else's. All the other things can be controlled and affected by others. This one can't. Others may never assign greatness to your life if you are a servant. But in serving others because of your commitment to God, you will know you lived a great life. And better than that, God will know it. Okay? This is where we get hung up. We want people to look at us and go, you're great. Do we not? Even if you don't desire to be great, everybody wants to hear that, and everybody wants their wife, their kids, their coworkers, their neighbors, the people at church. Everybody desires for people to look at them and go, you're great. And we want to hear that. We want people to think that about us. And God says, you might never get that in this world, but I will know, and you will know, and you will have a great life. It is your choice. Will you use your life to serve? That's really what today's choice comes down to. Will you use your life to serve in God's kingdom and to serve other people? I want you to know this. As a Christian, your Christian walk will never, ever, ever make sense to you until you learn how to serve other people, until you make a commitment to serve other people, until you roll up your sleeves, get your hands dirty, and start serving other people. Your Christian life will never make full sense to you, and you will always feel like something's missing. I just don't know what it is, but something's missing in this walk with Christ that I have. Until you serve others, your Christian life will just be an obligation. It won't just be that you feel like you're missing something. It'll also feel like this is an obligation. The best way I can say it is this. You will always understand the duty of being a Christian, but never the delight of being a Christian. What that means is this. You will go through the motions, and you will never have joy in actually being a Christian and serving people. It will always be a duty, and it will always be an obligation to you where it feels like a burden. When you make a commitment to serve people for the case of Christ, what happens is it's no longer a burden, it's no longer a duty, it becomes delightful. It becomes a joy because you know you're doing it for Christ, and you know you're making an eternal impact. And that's an incredible thing that God wants you to experience in your Christian walk. And if you never serve, you will never understand it. Okay? The other thing is this, until you make the choice to serve others, you're going to be continually spiritually frustrated. If you feel frustrated spiritually, like you always feel like, I can't get through that wall or I can't get over that hill, the reason is because you're not serving others. You've never made the commitment in your own heart to serve others. Now, you might serve, but it's because other people asked you into it or forced you into it. Okay? That will always be a duty. When you make the commitment and go, I wholeheartedly, willfully go serve, that's when the frustration spiritually stops. Because until that point, all you have is knowledge. And knowledge will never fulfill you. Okay? You can know the Bible inside and out, and if you don't serve people, you will still be spiritually frustrated. You will still spiritually wither, and you will spiritually shrink because you are not serving God's people and you're not serving others. All you have is head knowledge, and it will frustrate you. You will go, I have all this knowledge. Why am I so frustrated spiritually? Because you haven't committed to serve. That's what we see. Colossians 3, it reads this. It says, work willingly at whatever you do, as though you were working for the Lord rather than people. Remember that the Lord will give you an inheritance as your reward, and the master, and that the master you are serving is Christ. I love this passage for this sense. He says this: when you're serving others, are you supposed to be thinking about them the whole time and how they treat you? Is that what this passage says? Who should we act like we're serving? Jesus. Okay? Through service. If your eyes aren't on the ball and your eyes are not on, I'm serving Christ, you will get frustrated. Why? Because people are people. Okay? Every one of us sitting here has our own issues. We frustrate people. We just do. We all have different personalities. If you've lived long enough, you know this. If you've been married long enough, you know this. If you have children, you know this. We all have different personalities that rub each other wrong. If your desire to serve is, I'm not going to be frustrated by people and I'm never going to be frustrated, you've got your eyes in the wrong spot. And it's why Jesus says this. Jesus says, hey, or Paul says this, hey, when you're serving others, see them as Jesus. And you know Jesus is there and you're serving him and he's watching you the entire time. So when I'm dealing with Jordan and he frustrates me, okay, let's just take the example. He's just right down there right now. So Jordan frustrates me. That is not an issue where I look at it and go, man, I'm never going to serve Jordan again. Why? Because I'm serving Christ. So I will serve Jordan. When I see Rhonda over here who frustrates me endlessly, no, I don't know. I'm just saying that but when I'm serving someone else and they frustrate me, I cannot let that be a cause to go, you know what? I'm not serving anymore and this isn't joyful. Why? I'm not serving Rhonda. I'm serving Christ. And I know Christ is looking at me and he's smiling at me and going, good job. Good job. That's what we need to keep our eyes focused on. Giving your life to service. It will change your motivational energy in life. One of the things that will happen is when you get your eyes on Christ, you commit to serving his kingdom and serving him, you will wake up with new energy in life. If you feel like you're just going through the motions, if you feel like you're dragging, start making a commitment to serve Christ. You will have a reason to live when you get up in the morning. By serving, it will change your personal significance, how you view your own significance in this world. When your eyes are not on Christ and serving, you think your days don't really matter. Okay, you can go through the motions. But when you're serving and your eyes are on Christ, you realize every day is an important day to make an impact for the kingdom of God. And you will start to view yourself with more importance on a daily basis. You will view yourself with more significance, and you need to remember that. When you're serving others, what will happen is this: your faith will increase. Why? You realize things rely on me in the kingdom. So I need to be faithful. I need to watch how I talk, how I talk, what I do, where I am, how I look to other people. I need to watch all those things. I need to be more faithful to Christ because I'll be a more effective steward of his time with my life, and I have a greater kingdom impact on this world. And it will make you more faithful to the cause. This morning, I present you two options. And it is this: how are you going to achieve greatness? How will you pursue achieving greatness in this life of yours? Are you going to do what most people do, and this is focus on yourself and focus on possessions, positions, and power? Is that the choice you are going to make? If you make that choice, let me be clear, those things never last. They are affected by other people, and you will always be left wanting for something that you can't get. And you will always feel like there's something else there I can't grab onto. Or you can choose to serve others. And you can make the focus of your life serving others, to be a slave to others. We don't even like that word, but it's for Christ. To serve others. And what I can guarantee you is this. If you choose to serve others, I guarantee you that God will see your life as great, that you will achieve greatness. And someday you will stand before the creator of the universe and you will hear these words, "Good job, my faithful servant." Okay? He will see you as great. I guarantee it. So this morning you have a choice. And as I say every week this, choose well, because your choice on this topic will determine your destiny and your life tomorrow.